Let's keep focus on Seamus Coleman a little bit and let's head to Goodison, where Simon Crabtree is standing by waiting to talk to us. Simon, good to see you as always. But look, Seamus Coleman, he's a proper club man, isn't he? And he's loved and adored around those terraces.
And rightly so. Do you know what he is? I know I do say this for quite a few of the players, but Seamus is just such a lovely, lovely person, first and foremost, and a great player on top of that as well. And it's what's called a stalwart for the oldies out there as well. He turned up over a decade ago here at Everton, and he always gives 100% on and off the pitch, you know, from day dot as well. And as you mentioned earlier on about him coming across from Killybegs, where he almost went to play GAA, sort of the Gaelic sport across there, but football definitely very prominent. And at Sligo Rovers, where he came originally, the first manager he had almost persuaded him to give up the game, said he wasn't good enough. And then Paul Cook, who's currently the Ipswich Town manager, came in and persuaded Seamus that he could be the best in the world. And he said it's that confidence from the early days that led him to bigger and better things, most prominently here with Everton, but of course internationally with the Republic of Ireland.
Crazy that he only cost 60 grand, isn't it? I mean, it's a famous chant now around Goodison Park about Seamus Coleman. But what are your sort of early memories of when he first arrived in England, Simon? Because he didn't make the fastest of starts at Everton, did he, really, to be fair?
No, he didn't. He'd come into a team that was starting to find its feet as well from what had gone the previous decade. David Moyes sort of lifting them to bigger and better things, and sort of in and out for that first season. He went to Blackpool, which is a team not far away from where I actually live in the northwest of England. And well, all my friends who are all big Blackpool fans say he was the catalyst for them actually succeeding in promotion. He came in with about 7 games to go. He scored a goal that they still talk about now at Scunthorpe United, that they say propelled them into the playoffs. He played for Blackpool at Wembley against Cardiff City. They won 3-2, and then there was that famous season under Ian Holloway. It was a very famous rollercoaster ride for them. But it helped lift Seamus. He developed his game going forward as well. They spoke of him being like a winger, and then when he came here to Everton, just marauding up and down, just working tirelessly with whoever was in front of him, up and down, and he can still do that despite his furthering advancement in years today.
We're being so politically correct.
It's a very nice way of calling him old, wasn't it? Yeah.
But look, his best season back in 2013-14 was probably at the peak of his time at Everton. But where do we see his future going? You've described him as a stalwart. We know he's loved around those parts. He's there till 2023 contract-wise. Do you expect him to carry on? And in what capacity, if you do?
Yeah, I know what you mean in terms of that season as well. If you remember, it was a good season for Everton. They finished 5th in the Premier League under Roberto Martinez. He had a few goals in that time as well. He's been playing for the Republic of Ireland this last week as well, full 90 minutes. He did well against Portugal. And when he was asked then about what he would want to do in his future and what he does off the field, because he wears the captain's armband here and for Ireland as well, he said he doesn't just want to be that person that's there because he's very good at galvanising people, you know, at lifting people, and being that person that people will respect and look up to. He still wants to do stuff on the pitch, and what's more, he says he feels he still can do the job on the pitch, and that's why, other than that 4-game spell when he had a slight injury, where he's been involved in pretty much all of Everton's games so far this season, the extra year that he signed on the contract as well, and he wouldn't have signed that if he thought he couldn't still do it at this top level, not just for club but also for country. And yes, I think he will want to keep going as long as he can. He looks after himself, like James Milner that we heard. You know, I don't want to use that word old because I'm far older than either of those two. But having done Seamus's first interview here as many years ago, as well as a kid. But, you know, they do look after themselves. It's different now, you know. They eat well, they refuel well, they train well. So, yeah, Seamus will think he has a few more years, and he will know when he can't do it at the top level, and he will walk away from playing, and potentially, you would imagine, he's the sort of player that wants to reinvest, like James Milner says, the knowledge that he has learnt from football and give back to the next generation.
Yeah, you mentioned him a few times there, actually, Simon. James Milner, we did hear from him a moment ago and spoke to Golf over in Thailand about him as well. But you've got an interesting yarn about young James as well, haven't you? Or not so young James, actually.
Yes, your producers just teed you up for this one. I knew I should have told him this one because this is another sign how old that we all are. So back in 2002, when James was a kid coming through at Leeds United, I was commentating on a game at Sunderland Stadium of Light when James scored his first ever Premier League goal. He'd come from a goal behind. He equalised. Robbie Fowler actually came off the bench to score a penalty, a winning goal towards the end of the match. But like we probably all did, sort of, you know, when you're rummaging through stuff that you're being made to throw away that you shouldn't keep, you've got a mountain of programmes and team sheets and all sorts of stuff. And I'd found the team sheet from that first ever game. So the next time I saw him, this is how long ago it is, at Melwood, found him and gave him that team sheet. He was genuinely made up, I think, because he hadn't saved an awful lot of stuff. His dad had collected bits and pieces from his early days at Ellen Road, but he hadn't saved it. So I think he was genuinely made up about that. And I also found a spare one that I had, because I'd never take just one team sheet, you always have two. So he signed that to me as well, so that was nice. But another one, like I say, you know, he trains well, works hard, plays hard, but sensibly as well, and that is why. I mean, Seamus is only 2 years younger than James Milner. We think of Seamus, well, I still think of him as a baby because we saw him when he first came through here and at Blackpool as well. But he's only 2 years younger than James Milner, so you'd like to think he's got another 2 years to catch up to James, and James probably thinks he's got another 2 years, so they could be going like a Giggsy and still be playing late into the 30s, couldn't they?
Yeah, hopefully no one's going anywhere anytime soon. Look, Simon, just quickly before we go, we've been asking viewers today who's been the most reliable Premier League player for them. Who would it be for you?
Well, I did think about that, and there's the obvious ones that we could say. Most captains at all Premier League clubs are there because they are the most reliable ones. So if they're wearing the captain's armband, you would say that's because they are that reliable person. But an unsung hero I'm going to mention for you, who I love to pieces at Burnley, Ashley Westwood, who never misses a minute. He just cracks on with it. The only thing he ever wants is a good cup of tea, and he's happy with that as well. But he will give everything on and off the pitch, and he's got a great heart. He's got a great engine as well. He will put his body in places that you probably shouldn't, but does it for the best of his team and just cracks on with it. Doesn't take the limelight, gets on with it. That's my sort of player. So I would say Ashley Westwood, just because I love him to bits. I think he's brilliant. Yeah,
he's a proper unsung hero as well. Yeah. Sometimes when you say players are unsung, they've actually sung about quite a bit, but he is a proper unsung hero, definitely. Simon, thank you very much for joining us from Everton. Of course, we're asking you guys at home as well the same question that Simon just answered there. Who's the most reliable player in the Premier League for you from your team in the past?
What have you got?
Well, Shoab's actually picked a current player. He says the most reliable player for Chelsea is Cesar Azpilicueta. He's the cornerstone of our team and a real legend of the game as well. Let us know what you think. #PLFans. Right.